In this video, we're going to talk about how to use long division to divide polynomials. We want to divide 16x to the 3 minus 8x squared plus 9x plus 17 by 4x plus 3. So the original problem would appear like this, what I just pointed to with a blue arrow. And what I've done is I've translated that original problem into what looks more like a division problem back from elementary school that you may see right here. And so that's what you would want to do if you wanted to use long division. Now there's something I want to point out. You want to be very careful that in the thing that you're dividing, all of your powers of x are present. So what you want to do is our highest power is a 3. So you want to be sure you have a 2, a 1, and then a constant term. If you're missing any of those, you want to put 0 in the place. In other words, you would leave a blank and you would put 0 if something was missing. So in another video, we'll tackle a problem like that. But here we do have our 3 power, our 2 power, our 1 power, and then our constant term. So we don't have to worry about that so much. So I've written everything out, and then as you write the problem out this way, what you want to do is the first thing you want to ask yourself is how many times can 4x go into 16x3? Or a better way of saying this is what times 4 would give you 16? Well, the answer is 4. And what times x would give you x to the 3? And the answer to that is x squared. So that's the question you want to ask yourself, and whatever the answer is, you can go ahead and write that above your 16 x to the 3 term, and then you want to multiply, just like you would with normal numbers, like back in elementary school. But what you want to do here is you don't want to just multiply the 4x squared by the 4x, but you also need to multiply it by the 3. So when you multiply the 4x squared by the 4x, that's going to give you, of course, your 16x to the 3. We made sure it happened that way. And then your 4x squared multiplied by the positive 3 is going to give you plus 12x squared. And so now what you want to do, and this is why it's really important to keep everything lined up, is you want to put a set of parentheses around what you just came up with and put a minus sign out in front. Because just like with normal numbers, if you did division on them back in elementary school, after you multiply, then you subtract. And then we do the whole process over again. But since we're talking about a polynomial, we have 2 terms. So that's why you put a parenthesis around it so you're sure to either distribute that negative or to subtract each of the terms. So then we can subtract. So 16x3 minus 16x3, of course, is 0. Negative 8x squared minus 12x squared is going to give us minus 20x squared. So that's where you have to keep in mind that negative out in front. So now what you want to do is bring down the next term, the plus 9x, and then we start the whole process over again. We say, what would we have to multiply by 4x to equal negative 20x squared? And the answer to that is negative 5x. And so then take the negative 5x and multiply it by our 4x, giving us, of course, negative 20x squared. But then don't forget to multiply the negative 5x by the 3, giving us minus 15x. Again, put that in parentheses, that whole thing, and put a minus sign out front, and draw your line and subtract. So negative 20x squared minus a negative 20x squared, of course, is 0, because that would turn into a positive. And then 9x minus a negative 15x is going to give us 24x, because the 2 negatives cancel, giving us a positive, and 9 plus 15 is 24. So then continue the process, bring down the plus 17, and now we're going to do everything one more time. So what would you have to multiply by 4 to give you 24? And the answer to that is 6. And then what would you have to multiply by x to give you x? Well, that's just 1. So that's why we only have a 6 up on top now. So now multiply the 6 by the 4x, that's going to give us 24x. And then multiply the 6 by a 3, and that's going to give us 18. And so again, we want to put a parenthesis around it, a negative sign, and combine. 24x minus 24x is 0. 17 minus 18 is going to give us negative 1. So notice up top that we have 4x squared minus 5x plus 6. So we already have a remainder term. Also, keep in mind that the next thing you would want to do is drop another number, but you can't. And so if that's the case, if we already have a constant term, but we have something left over, that something that's left over is the remainder. So just like back in elementary school, sometimes things wouldn't divide evenly, you would have a quotient and a remainder term. Well, the exact same thing is happening here. So there are 2 ways that you could display this answer. You could say r, or write out remainder of negative 1. Or another way that you could display this answer, and I'm going to write it down here in the bottom left-hand corner, is you could do 4x squared minus 5x plus 6 plus, and then you can put the negative 1 over the thing that you're originally dividing by, 4x plus 3. So that means the same thing as remainder of negative 1. So whichever way you see it, if you're working on ALEKS or whatever it is you're doing, whichever way you see, you know they're the same thing now, and you can display it however you want.